Shola here. Happy Saturday. And you know what? Why do I have these glasses on? Because they look totally cool. One of the things I wanted to do is do a super chill Saturday session, and I thought, your girl has to re up her nails, and I just want an example of how it's totally possible to document, not create, and to not rob yourself of life's balance, right? So I was literally sitting at brunch, and I said to myself, like, when you're passionate about things, you think about it all the time. The analogy that I like to use is that no one ever says to singers who literally wake up in the morning and sing in the shower, "Oh my God, it's Saturday. There you go again singing." Like, you need work life balance, okay? Concert pianist, same thing. Um, Same thing with world class athletes, okay? Same thing with somebody who wants to freaking get to the moon, or the moon is so uh, passe. Let's say Uranus, all right? So I just want to figure out how to angle this so I can share it because I'm re-upping my nails, right? I need to go to the salon, but for right now, I'm going to do a do-it-yourself job on Saturday. So I want to, in the process of documenting, not creating, give you a three-step process for documenting your musings and having that be a part of your digital archive, but do it in a way that's totally friction free for the most part. And then I'm going to go into something I was thinking about walking home, excuse me, which was Neil, the founder of AngelList, Neil Ravikant, has this premise, hypothesis that there are three big decisions in life that really kind of make or break your well-being, and I want to talk about that. But the first thing I want to do is literally um, demonstrate the process for you. So one of the things that might be useful when you're documenting, I created, like, if you're used to just talking on the fly, then in a structured way, then you don't need any kind of aids or whatever. But one of the things that I did is that literally before I hit record, I sat down with, look, a pen and a napkin, and I just wrote down like three things that I wanted to talk about. So it's like I have an outline. Now, the benefit of this lean in is that if you use any kind of machine learning or um, AI tool for editing, by your being very structured in your speaking, it'll make it that much easier for them to find those rare moments that are good for editing. So for me to say in this video, I'm talking about three, and then put my fingers up, important topics, is going to be useful because then it could slice and dice each one of those three into different segments. Okay. So yeah, I will be talking about Neil Ravikant's three big decisions. But before I do that, I want to talk about something that came to my mind as I was having my brunch. And what it was is the following. Paul Graham, who is one of the co-founders of Y Combinator, which arguably is one of the world's most prestigious, if not the most prestigious, uh, startup accelerators, or is it an incubator? I believe it's an accelerator. He has a seminal article called Cities and Ambition. I think it was published in 2018. And excuse me, I have to do like this. And the whole idea of Cities and Ambition is to help the founder through decisions that are super important, that are often made de facto without thinking, that could have a massive impact on your life. And one of those decisions is about place, right? Where you decide to build whatever you want to build. And his whole idea is that most people don't pay enough attention to where they're going to live. It happens by default. Either they stay within a certain mile radius of where they're born, or they move for school, or they move for a job, or they move for a mate. But most people don't look at all the places on the planet and say, okay, if I'm very deliberate about where I decide to live, that can have a massive impact on whether or not I succeed. Because the thing is that there's a momentum. I'm going to use different words than he uses, but there's a momentum going in a certain direction in any city, right? So his hypothesis is that, for instance, in um, Washington, the momentum is going towards political power. And so everything in that city is all about how people can gain political power. So if that's something that you're interested in, or like, let's say you're building some type of um, tool that was going to help people extract knowledge and insights from different laws on the books. Okay, like, duh, Washington makes sense. Take New York. The momentum is towards making money as much as you can, huge pools of it, right? So if that's something that you really want, that's the value, the ethos of that city. Okay. The next one is, I would say, LA, right? The um, the theme of LA, the momentum of LA is you should look hot, you should come across well on cameras, you should be a star, you should be more popular. So if that's something that you're interested in, of all the places to be in the world, every place you go, from the gym to the dog park to the grocery store, people are talking and thinking about that. So it's a rising tide when it comes to that. And one of the things that I have come to accept as a truth for my life experience is that I really vibe off of environments where the momentum is toward collaboration. And there's certain places where the momentum is for like secrecy and like closed circles, right? So if you're someone that thrives off of the energy of collaboration, see, collaboration is an open energy. When you are collaborating, you start out by giving, right? So the natural impetus is to give first. So when you have a collaboration momentum, you're not thinking about how can I keep what I know and my resources as guarded as possible. You're thinking about how can I open them up, understanding that your particular percentage of the pie proverbially will be smaller, but if the entire pie is made infinitely bigger through collaboration, the net of what you have will be bigger. And so I'm just realizing that there are certain places that check all the boxes, right? What are some of the boxes? Like, oh my God, beautiful, affordable, incredible real estate, um, great cuisine, safety, attractive people, great healthcare. Okay, you might have a box of 10 different factors that are important to you, but there are certain deal breakers. And for those of us that thrive off of the spirit and the momentum of collaboration, if you move to a place where that's just not the momentum, the ethos, it's going to be a deal breaker for you and you're just not going to be satisfied. And so one of the things that I've done with the help of Chat GPT, all right, which I use all the time, is I have come up with some like leading indicators of whether or not uh, collaboration is important in a city. And one of the things to look at is the number of events, right? Like meetups, or event, go to meetup.com or Eventbrite, or there's another site, Luma, and see, is there an active environment and culture of meeting up, right? Because the thing about collaboration is that it is often unplanned and spontaneous. So you just have to go where people are, and the something will ignite. Like, you can't always plan it. And so places like co-working spaces, universities, meetups are places where people spontaneously connect and collaborate. And that's offline. Online is groups like Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups, Telegram groups. And so if you really value collaboration, before you even go to a place, my well-worn recommendation as someone that has lived in 25 international cities, right? Like I'm kind of an OG/OGette when it comes to this. Like before it got hot with these Airbnb/travel influencers, right? And so, as someone that has lived across multiple continents and multiple cities, one of the things that I realized is that if I had it to do all over again, I would have been a little bit more deliberate about going and seeing the the signals of co-working spaces and meetups, and also joining some of the online communities. There are a lot of online communities attached to specific locations, and you go there, and you can. It's ironic, but you can kind of what you feel in those online groups is kind of the same. What you feel in the scent, if you will, of those online groups, or what you're going to run into at those physical locations. And so, I really recommend going to join some of these groups to get a feel of it, and then going to see what the events are in in some of these cities, and that's a really good indication of the culture, of the momentum of that particular city. And if it doesn't gel with you, like, don't do. This is one of those do as I say, not do what I do or have done things, which is don't get to a place and think that you're going to use the force of your personality to change things. Now, here's the thing: it's absolutely possible, but you have to protect your focus, right? And what I would say to you is, do you want to use your energy for your main thing, or do you want to use your energy to use a little bit of the urban vernacular? Do you want to use your energy to cape for a city and try to be like, remember, pioneers always get to proverbially the arrows in their back. So if you just decide that you want to make it your life's mission to change the culture of a city, it's actually possible. But the whole thing is that going to be your main thing? Is that a main purpose in life? But if you're trying to build something and that requires singular focus, and you know to build something you need a culture of collaboration and community, why are you going to take your focus away from your main thing? Example: I want to be a rock star acquisition entrepreneur, all right? Or I want to be a brilliant whatever nonprofit founder. Why would you take your energy away from that to try to use the force of your personality to change a culture? It just, for me, it just doesn't really make sense, because you can only use your focus twice. I think they're coming out rather good, by the way. So that's something to think about. Not, I said you can only use your focus twice, but I mean once, right? Like there's a limited amount of focus and energy that you have, and I just feel like it should be towards your main thing. And so, yeah, you can come, and this isn't to say you can't go to new places and start um, events. I think that makes sense, but there needs to already be a culture of events, right? So if you go to a place and there's cricket sound and tumbleweeds, like there's no momentum, no interest in co-working spaces, there's no momentum or interest in events. Like one thing should be, there should be at least two solid events. This is a metric that I use. There should be at least two solid events a week. If you multiply 2 times 100, I mean 52, right? So there are 52 weeks in a year. If you multiply 52 times 2, that's over 100 plus events a year. So if there are not at least two events in a place, and here's the thing: some people are like, that's a lot. I've been in town. Shout out to Bansko, Bulgaria. It was less than 15,000 people. I think around 12,000 people, and there were almost events every day. Certainly two. So if they can do it in a small Balkan town 2 hours away from the capital, if you're in the city that has 100,000, 200,000 people, 50,000 people, and there's not enough interest in collaboration to even pop off two events a week, it's time to go. It really is time to go. Don't second guess it. And so I want to share that. Now, how does this tie into the founder of Angel List's premise about Naval Ravikant three big decisions in life? So the three big decisions in life are what you decide to do. I'm calling that process. Who you decide to do it with, people, and where you decide to do it, place. And I've spent the past couple of minutes talking about place because I love traveling and I consider myself, I would call a multiple home base uh, lifestyler, meaning the whole vision is to have home bases, stable home bases, but in multiple places, which is different from being a nomad. And I use something that I call the Netflix scroll test, which is, and you can call it the Amazon um, scroll test as well, or the Hulu scroll test, or wherever you might watch television, all right, or the TikTok scroll test. And the whole idea is that if you are being honest with yourself, right, can you say that you spent as much time thinking about these three things: people, process, or what you're going to do, and place? And let's just talk about place. As much as you spent scrolling for a new video to watch on Netflix, right? So let's just say you've been using Netflix for 5 years, and every time you go to watch, let's say an hour of Netflix, 5%, 5 to 10% of that time, let's just say 5% of that time is spent just finding something. Can you say you spent enough? Can you say you spent as much time in your life scrolling through Netflix videos have doing research on the best place in the world for you to do what you want to do? For most people, the answer is no, if they're being honest, right? Can you show me um, a, a printout or a document where you wrote out the different criteria for different places? Can you show me some structured conversations that you've had with people? Can you show me, now we're in the era of using LLMs, can you show me your chat GPT conversations, right? Can you show me conversations you've had with your therapist or your life coach, or anything structured that you can say, yes, I've spent as much time on the all important uh, subject of where the hell I'm going to do what I'm going to do as I have scrolling through videos, right? Now, to be fair, many people don't have the kind of passport that enables them to travel around the world, and I'm sensitive to that. Although I would say to you, if that's an issue for you, then one of the things you want to do is the work that it takes to free yourself up. And these days, it's easier than it's ever been for people with highly specialized skills to get digital nomad visas, or to legally and ethically. I mean, you have to consult a professional, um, do investment programs in countries that have stronger passports, right? So it's it's never been easier to move around the world if you have specialized skills. And so I would say to you that that the issue of where you're going to be applies to you as well. And the way I like to think about it is, imagine if you're a palm tree, right? Trying to use the force of your personality in northern Norway to grow, right? I don't care how resilient a palm tree you are. If you're in um, northern Norway and you're a palm tree and you're trying to grow to these epic heights, good luck with that, right? Versus saying, you know what, there's probably 10 um, tropical countries that is better for me to try to grow in, right? And I think a lot of we as humans are the only species that have tricked ourselves to believe that our environment doesn't matter. Like, we can use the force of our environment to the force of our personality to overcome environment. The eagles, right? The birds flying south for the summer, lions in the jungle, gazelle, giraffes, like every other species on the planet changes their environment when situations change. You don't hear I had someone laughing about this the other day. You don't hear a lion in the Serengeti, all right, saying, you know what, I ride for this jungle. I'm not leaving. Okay. I'm gonna stay here until I die. Duh. They're like, there's no game here, there's no water. It's time for us to leave. Same thing with every other species on the planet, but somehow we as humans, it's only recently in human history, because for most of human history we've been like nomadic, moving around based upon changing the environment. But for some reason, we now think that we can use the force of our environment. I mean, the force of our personality change environment, as opposed to doing what is easier, which is to see where the environment is best for what we want and to place ourselves there. And so I really want the three big decisions in life, one of which is place, to get a little bit more visibility in people's, let's just say, importance catalog, if you will. People kind of get that who you marry, who decide to partner with, or in the case of a business, who you decide to connect with as a business partnership. People get that in your romantic or business relationship, who you partner with matters. Although I'll be the first to tell you that in the past, I haven't thought as much about that as one should, mainly just relying upon emotions or how the person makes you feel, which isn't enough. So people matter a lot. And then the last thing is, obviously, there are endless books written on process or what you do, right? How to find a right career. But the irony situation is that where you live can impact your people who you have relationships with, both in business, personal, in terms of friendship, as well as romantic, um, and even the career opportunities that open up to you. And so I just really now am just advocating having some clarity around what you want in life, what your values are, and realizing that certain locations are in harmony with those things as opposed to in disharmony. And certain locations will provide more flow for you to do those things with those kinds of people as opposed to friction. This is a big theme for me lately. The opposite of friction is flow, and realizing that the natural state of things is flow. Example, you get up in the morning, you start breathing, your breath is flowing out of you. That's the natural order of things from the moment you come out of your mom's womb until you take your last breath. So if you're not breathing properly, that's friction. The first thing you do is look to take something out, you subtract. So I feel that the natural state is flow, and what we have to do is start subtracting the things that add friction. And one of the things that adds friction is when you're in an environment that's not aligned with what you want. It's just daily friction. And the trick is to just go to where there's better alignment, and then you'll start to be in flow. So I really want to give homage to this fellow's whole speaking to the startup world and the entrepreneur world about the three big decisions being: number one, what you do, your career; number two, who you do it with, your relationships, business and personal; and then number three, where you do it. And I would say that these days it's pretty easy to see. For instance, if you are a big advocate of like environmentalism, why would you move to some place where people don't really care for the environment, right? If you are passionate about um, having a deep connection with the water, maybe it's surfing or just sailing or whatever, why would you move to a city where people are just trying to develop every piece of land possible and they don't care about that, right? Move to some place where people are like, no, we want everybody to have equal access to the waterways, right? If you really care about building up your wealth, this is something I realized. Don't move to a place where people don't really have that ambition, right? They are just okay with having just enough, or okay sometimes with having less than enough. Move to some place where it's okay to say, you know what, I want to live a financially abundant life. And that means I have to earn more than I make and save and invest. And when you're thinking about that and talking about that, you're not getting what I call ambition shamed. That's super important, right? Maybe some places where people are interested in the fire movement, financial independence, retirement early. Certainly places where people, it's normalized to talk about money in a way that doesn't shame people. Um, to talk about investing, to talk about the four phases of that we put money through, which is we make it, and then we save it, then we invest it, and then we give it away. And people are talking about that in the cafes, in restaurants, walking along the streets, the gym, co-working spaces. Just really listen to what people are talking about when you're out in public, and that kind of tells you what the momentum or the values or the ethos is of a place. I've become a lot better at doing that. So yeah, those are the three big decisions: what you're going to do, whom you're going to do it with, and where you're going to do it. And it makes so much sense to make those decisions deliberately. And the last thing, just to summarize again and again, is that if you are really interested in environments that value collaboration over like exclusion, because you need to collaborate to do for innovation to happen, then pay attention to signals like co-working spaces and events, and um, the presence of universities, the presence of like conferences, and um, use that as an indicator of whether or not that's going to be a place that aligns with your interest in that. And if it's not there, don't start caping. Don't try to be a martyr and say, okay, I'm going to go there and I'm going to sacrifice everything that I have to make that possible. No, use your energy and focus for your main thing and go to places that already have that those initiatives going on. And then, right, you can start something, you can start an event there, but you're starting an event with there already being momentum to go out to events 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week. Well, that's a bit much, but at least like twice a week, to go to collaborative spaces like co-working spaces, incubators, accelerators. So this is well worn feedback based upon a lot of trial and error I've done, and hopefully somebody will see this and it'll help them out. And it all starts with, I would say, make a list of the things that are important to you, understand what your values are, and then start getting out there, quote unquote. By getting out there, I mean going to hang out in strategically Facebook groups, uh, WhatsApp groups, Telegram groups, listen strategically to people who are talking some sense on social. Um, and the last thing I would say is do not listen to somebody's take on whether a place is good and bad until you know their values. If you love snow, do not listen to somebody who tells you don't visit Switzerland when in reality they love the tropics. They don't share your values. If you love tropical weather, do not listen to someone who's trying to convince you to move to Denmark, because you never want to see snow again in your life. And that's one thing I want to say. Please, for the love of God, do not always contextualize somebody's advice about an environment, a city, a place, a country. Step one is knowing your values, what is important to you. Step two is knowing if you share the person in question's what I call VIG, right? Values, interests, goals, and standards. See if you share their VIGs. And if you do, then you can pay attention to what they say. But if they're talking things are totally at odds with what you find important, why would you listen to them, right? So this is Shola here. Take care and take action.